play of the first day of the second test between England and New Zealand at Edgbaston sees England won the toss and chose to bat first, closing on 258 for 7. Dan Lawrence is 67 not out. He's been given excellent support there towards the end by Mark Wood, who is at 16 not out, and Ollie Stone also made 20 from 52 balls. Useful runs those, because England were 222 for 7, 175 for 6 when Bracey was dismissed. First ball caught at third slip off Trent Boult. But they got away to a good start. They were 67 for no wicket at lunch. And Sibley and Burns took that to 72 for 1. Sibley was caught behind off Henry for 35. That was 72 for 1 in the 30th. A cluster of wickets then, with Crawley out just 1 run later. Caught by Mitchell at third slip off Wagner for a duck. That was 70 for 2, 85 for 3 when Root just felt for a little outswinger outside his off stump and nicked it to Blundell off Henry for 4. 127 for 4 when Pope had looked pretty well set. They played a bit of a loose shot off Patel. Not much of a ball really, but he felt for it outside the off stump as he's the left arm spinner. He edged the catch to Blundell for 19 and walked off very disappointed because he had looked well set. Rory Burns also had looked very well set. He was caught by Latham off Boult for 81. And in fact, we can go straight outside and join Eleanor Oldroyd, who's I think with Rory Burns, asking about that lovely setup, Eleanor, from Trent Boult.
Yes, Rory, I'm hoping you can hear my questions. For the first time, we're going to have to shout because of the Barmy Army who are still singing. Actually, we've probably put some headphones on him as well, Agus, so you might be able to speak to him too. But it has, I mean, what an atmosphere it has been down here with the Hollies stand in full voice all day long. Rory, what was it like to be out there batting with a crowd?
Yeah, very enjoyable. As you can probably hear in the background, they've been pretty vocal all day. And yeah, it's just nice to be back out in front of some spectators. Yeah,
and you have been in such great form following on from Lords. And what is it something that you've kind of thought, right, just got to keep that feeling going?
Yeah, I feel in quite a nice rhythm at the minute. So it's just, from my own personal perspective of my batting, it's just about trying to keep that going as long as I can. It's something that you groove in the nets, and when you get out there and get an opportunity, you just try and take them.
You and Dom Sibley looked very steady in the morning, but it was not easy to bat out there, was it? You had some clouds. Just tell us about how New Zealand were bowling to you.
Yeah, it was the surface as well. I think it probably started slightly damp. It's been two-paced a little bit all day, and as the sort of day wore on, almost after that sort of morning session, it actually started to swing a little bit more after lunch as well. So yeah, there were some pretty tricky encounters out there, but yeah, I think we've got through okay.
What's it like facing Trent Boult again?
Yeah, I've only had the experience once, I think, at Mount Maunganui. So he swings them quite nicely, and he's got a good skill set. So he's always challenging you.
And pleased as the day has gone on. Obviously, losing wickets is disappointing for some people, but Dan Lawrence has played so nicely as well this afternoon.
Yeah, I think Loz has played brilliantly. He's probably been the one batter out of our side that's actually made it look quite fluent and relatively easy at times out there. So it's a massive feather in his cap, and yeah, it was really enjoyable watching.
Good. Agus, he can actually hear you if you wanted to throw a quick question in.
No, great, Rory, well played. But as an antiquated, creaking swing bowler, I just love the way that Trent Boult, well, to say set you up, you would probably dispute that, but the ball swinging in at you and then that little tempter outside the off stump, I mean, from a bowler's perspective, it was a lovely plot that he hatched.
Yeah, I think it was his plot most of the day. I just managed to get slightly out in front of myself, I think, so that's probably a disappointing thing from my point of view, but obviously probably a feather in Trent's cap.
Yeah, can you see what he's doing? I mean, again, like Jimmy Anderson, they're so clever, these swing bowlers, at hiding that ball from you. What are you seeing as he releases it?
You're just trying to pick up clues really from his grip and how he's releasing it and how he comes down either side. He's pretty good at doing it, and he describes them pretty well. But yeah, he's bowled quite nicely today.
Love it. Lovely to talk to you, Rory.
Cheers,
and congratulations on the birth of your daughter. I haven't had a chance to say well done.
Oh, yes, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That was nice. We enjoyed seeing her at Lords. Thank you. Cheers, Rory.
Cheers, Agus.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you.
There we go. It's always nice to Michael Vaughan's with me. Give the bowler a bit of credit for these wickets sometimes. It was just such a lovely setup, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, Boult, he's been doing it for many years, hasn't he? He's an expert at it. It was, in that first spell actually in the morning where he set him up with a few outswings, then got one to nip back, and it was just a little bit short and a bit high, but that's what he's about, isn't he, Trent Boult? Rory Burns played great. I thought he looked better today than his 100 actually at Lords.
Yes.
His Lords 100 was a real graft. It was a real hard-working style 100, whereas today he wasn't in free-flowing style, but I just thought his balance was excellent. He played a few onside shots and then played a few through the covers that, I always feel at this level you've got to have the ability to play both sides of the wicket. If you're just playing one side, as a captain you can easily set fields to that. And I guess someone like Dom Sibley, you look at the way Dom Sibley played today, he got a few through the offside, a couple of fours through extra cover, which was good to see. And I just think for players to improve at this level, you do have to just keep asking yourself questions of how you can improve. Rory Burns is the kind of player that I think really what's helped him is playing a bit of county cricket and getting plenty of time in the middle, getting that sync, getting that rhythm, getting that feel for batting. From the start of the Test series at Lords, he just looks in good rhythm. His alignment looks excellent, and it looks like he's got good options.
Yeah, just throwing a random thought in, but as far as the Test Championship final's concerned, with India, they'll be hoping this ball doesn't swing around, doesn't they? They've got Southee, and they've got Bolt, and they've got Wagner's also been swinging the ball around a bit. I mean,
Kyle Jamieson.
Exactly. I mean, it could be quite tricky for Indian batsmen unaccustomed to that swinging ball. They haven't had much cricket.
Yeah, it sounds like we're having a storm in our...
I don't know what's going on there, so apologies for that noise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a New Zealand perspective, they'll hope the clouds are around and swing plays a massive part. But, I believe the weather forecast is pretty good, so they might have to do it the hard way like they've had to do today. They're a team that just looks to me like they play Test cricket in a very professional manner, very disciplined. They knew that today was going to be a hard work day, but they just hung in there, particularly in that morning session. They didn't bowl any real loose balls. England had to work for every run, and then in the afternoon session they got that spark, those wickets. Straight after tea they got the wickets, and England made them work hard for that last hour and a half by just playing properly. And I think Ollie Stone, Mark Wood, Dan Lawrence has kind of sent the message that this pitch is pretty good. It's a pitch that you can get some decent runs on if you are willing to do the kind of basics of batting, which is just hang in there for the first 20-30 balls and it'll get easier.
Yeah. Well, Crawley's not in any nick, is he? I mean, what's going to happen here? It's sort of like almost action replays.
Yeah, and that's a concern. Three dismissals on the trot where the outside edge has been found and he's been caught in the third slip region. 2 big drives at Lords. Today was a timid prod just on and around off stump. You look at a young player that's setting out in Test match cricket. He's obviously got that big double century, which was great against Pakistan. Struggled in the winter against spin. He's come here in the UK, and I was watching a player today, and you can see him on the camera, and it's prominent. He's saying, "Watch the ball, watch the ball, watch." And I know I just wonder if he's trying too hard. I just wonder whether it's just so big and it's so important that you forget to just get that rhythm of just casually staring at the ball, not too closely, that it almost becomes too much. And that's a dismissal that he will know that he shouldn't get out to that delivery. It's not a Jaffa.
No,
it's just a nervous prod. So there's question marks about Zach Crawley. There has to be at number 3. He's getting out too cheaply. And England, against India, against Australia, you can't be giving cheap wickets away when you can't in the top 6. You look at Bracey at 7. Again, he's made a glaring mistake first ball. That's just a mental error. Just prodding at a ball just full of a length from Bolt. A few young players in the England batting lineup that have struggled of late, but one in Dan Lawrence, which I have to say for the first 20 balls today, I thought, well, he's no chance.
That's going to knock him
How's
over.
he going to get a run?
Yeah.
And then quite quickly, he found his rhythm and he got into his zone, and he looked for the last hour. He looked a tremendous player. He was playing the swinging ball nicely, hit down the ground well, flicked through the onside, flamingo style a couple of times. And he looked quite a hard batsman to bowl to, so full credit to him. It was unorthodox to start with. I was like hiding behind the kind of cupboard to watch because I thought he was going to get out any ball, but then he got into his rhythm quickly.
Alistair Cook's with us. We were watching out on the gantry when he first came in, and we thought, ooh, a little bit of hiding behind the sofa stuff when he first came in, but what a terrific innings towards the end.
It was, and exactly what England needed. I think the situation helped him. It was like, well, we lost a couple of wickets, and he got to not marshal the tail, but with Stone and Wood, he got to build a partnership, kind of play the way he wanted to play, kind of in suited attacking game. He's not the world's best starter. You saw Trent Bolt all over him.
Yes.
As we were just saying, Michael Vaughan saying, watching behind the sofa, that front pad looks big. But once he gets past that, the first 10, 15 balls, I think it's exaggerated a little bit because everyone's a poor starter. Everyone gets out early on. It's because he's so unorthodox with the positions he ends up in early on, where his movements aren't quite right. As soon as he gets into his innings, like some of those cover drives today were brilliant. There was no flick of the wrist. It was really simple, and actually sometimes when he does simplify it, becomes a better player. But you never want to knock that confidence and those flicks out of him, because that's what makes him a bit different to everyone else. And batting at number 6 is a great place to bat on it.
Yeah. We were just talking about John Crawley before you
John Crawley.
Oh, sorry. Got the wrong. Zach Crawley. We're not quite calling John Crawley back yet. No, Zach Crawley. And is there a situation where you can just be a bit tense and therefore you're not quite playing with that sort of with the rhythm that you'd want to play? You have a go at that, then Michael can have a go at it.
Absolutely. He's struggling for form. He'd probably be hitting the ball quite nice in the nets, but he's probably not spent much time in the middle. He's struggling for rhythm. And then what had happened today, he'd had probably 2 hours of looking at a good wicket, or the guys are playing well. He's just desperate to get out there and settle down. He walks out there straight after lunch, and it would just been a blur for him. His mind would have been racing. I think there's a great clip on the TV where he's saying, like, watch the ball, yes. Like mouthing it as if that's all he's trying to focus on. But when you just try and focus on that, you're probably not focusing on that. And his 267 against Pakistan, it seemed serene, didn't it? He just literally went out and played.
Yeah.
But obviously he's fighting his demons, as you do when you're struggling for form and rhythm. And those 4 balls would have happened in such a hurry for him. The bowling would have felt 110 mile an hour, and almost he sat back down after he nicked it, thinking, "What has just happened here?"
Yeah.
And how am I going to score a run? And as soon it will come back quick. He's just got to trust himself to allow him to come back quick. He's got to go back to simple things. What does he do really well? And his simple technique in the nets, probably not hit too many balls, and just try and relax. Now that's so easier. Much easier said sitting here when you're not worried about your place, you're worried about all the external stuff, and that's the challenge of international cricket and the pressure of the difference between county cricket, where he'll be given that run. In Test cricket, you're not given as long, and you're so desperate to do it. But we all know this guy can play. That 260 was a brilliant knock.
Yeah.
And he's just got to trust himself that he will come back.
And if you're getting out the same sort of a way, honestly, it's only 3 innings, isn't it? But does that start to sort of prey in there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is 3 innings, but there's 3 identical dismissals, really.
Yeah.
Test match cricket, it's tough, it's hard, it's an environment that Alice has just said, you don't get long. You don't get long at number 3, getting caught third slip 3 consecutive times, and that is the difference. It's now, can he somehow go back to his room, and over the course of the next day or so, can he find a simplicity to be able to go out there in the second innings and just play? And that's very easy said than done. But you start your Test career like Zach did, and he looked terrific. He played not just the 267, but he just looked a fantastic player. He just looked like he had every ounce of confidence. He had the ability to dance down to the spinners and whack it over the top. He was playing cover drives on length, not the half volley, on length, and we think, this player is the perfect player for Australia. The Kookaburra, how are you going to bowl to win when the ball gets soft in Australia? Now he's now gone through that stage where he's had some failures. The winter wasn't great for him. He made too many mistakes, and now he started the English summer in 3 innings. He's made 3 mistakes. He knows that the spotlight, we are talking about him, the media will write about him tomorrow morning, and that is the difference. Can he put all that to one side? Can he clear it out of his head, and somehow in the second innings can he just go out and play the ball? And that is the man next to you did it better than anybody, because he went through many times where his position, his technique, and many aspects of his game were questioned, and Alistair had the greatest method. He could just get into the zone. He could kind of nullify all the noise. And Test match cricket is about, can you clear the noise out of your system? And it's not just noise of speak, it's written and it's social media. Yeah. Can he do that for the second innings? I will still say this, I think he will have a long Test career. I do believe he's going to have a long Test career. This is just a little bit, and it might be, Aggers, that he has a time out the team. It may be that they have to drop him if he fails again. It might be that someone like David Malan will come back in, but he will have a long Test career, I'm pretty sure. And young players, they come in, they go out, and then they learn and they come back better players. I'm not saying that England are at that stage yet with him, but it may be that may happen. But I will say I still think he's going to have a long Test match career.
How did you cut it out? That one year particularly where there's a lot of, it was before the 2010 Ashes, wasn't it, actually? I mean, and people questioning whether or not you should go on that, and so you got the 100 at the Oval. How do you, even when you know you're actually not playing very well, I'd imagine, you're being honest with yourself and saying, I know this isn't happening, but what makes you get through to the point where actually things do start to click again?
Well, for me, it was a bit different. I changed my technique to be quite rigid. It worked. I've got a couple of test hundreds, and then when the ball away from home, when it started nipping around, this kind of new technique, in inverted commas, wasn't getting me out of trouble. Like my scrappy technique at the end, like the ball, I could just adjust. I was so rigid, I just kept nicking it or missing it. I actually got to the point of rock bottom, which sometimes you need to do as a player. And Paul Collingwood spoke about it, Andrew Strauss spoke about it, where it can't get any worse. So I walked in that innings and I just cleared my head and said, I'm not going out defending, which for me was a bit of like, which was very unusual, but that's the only method I could do. And I spoke to Collingwood after he got to the same, but Strauss, he thought this was his last innings. He was going to play it when he got the 160 odd in Napier.
Yes, that's right.
And he just freed me up. I think I hit my first ball for 4 through the leg side off stump, and I just played. And I thought, I'm not going out defending. I was 80 odd at lunch, which is very unlike me, and I kind of went from there. Zach Crawley probably is not at that stage yet. Zach Crawley is probably not at rock bottom thinking this is the last time, it can't get any worse. I had 6 test matches of averaging 10, I think it was. So, but I think what he will do from this experience, I genuinely believe it happens to a lot of players. You learn a lot quicker from it. You learn so much quicker than just going back and scoring county runs. Having this experience, learning at the highest level, what do I need to do to my game? What actually are my basics? What do I really rely on when it gets tough? And the players who survive that, their chart goes like that. People who don't and get spat out by Test cricket, fall off the cliff pretty bad. But I know that England rate him, and I know that they will give him all the support he can. Varney might be right. He might have to leave the environment, but he will be back if he's not. But I don't think he's at that stage.
You mentioned Cookie, and I'm just watching Zach very closely in the last 3 innings, and you just said to yourself, you were rigid.
Yeah.
And I just wonder whether he's become rigid. I just wonder whether he's just become a bit static and rigid. And all I would say, one word to him is be energised. Go out there with a bit of energy. And it's not playing. It's just be energised. You're looking to score. It's you can see in the first innings at Lords when he played that big drive. The second innings, he was leaving. It was like a real effort to leave a ball. And you watch his first 2 or 3 balls today, it was a real effort to leave the ball. A leave should be just such a natural. It's not there. I'll just kind of smoothly get into the delivery.
Trying to be perfect, wasn't it? You're just trying to be like almost trying to be a perfect technique. There's no such thing, but that's what you strive for as a batsman. Sometimes certainly as a younger batsman, you think I've got to be like that. And in one way, I think Joe Root is with his new technique. Who he is trying to play the ball like trying to copy Kane Williamson, play it late, and without that rhythm, I associate Joe Root a bit today, and I saw it a little in the winter. But when you're banging out lots of runs because you play spin so well, the seam, this new technique of his, and looks a little bit forced and a little bit not natural. I always go back to Joe Root's great innings in 2016 against Pakistan. Had rhythm, had flow, and I'm not quite sure I'm getting his new technique.
Interesting. We talked about Crawley, and we had time to talk about Bracey, who's obviously devastated. But I reckon, I'm going to stick my neck out. I reckon the most frustrated person today will be Ollie Pope, who's got himself 2 starts now.
It will be. Yeah. You're absolutely, and he has a history in first-class cricket. When he gets in, he goes on and scores runs. He's got a history in Test cricket of getting in and playing a soft shot. Today was a soft shot in terms of getting out. You saw the frustration straight away. He knew what he did. And unfortunately, that's that kind of the growing up of taking, it was a great time to bat in terms of great wicket, day one, ball's not turning, and he's got out to a spinner. He's a better player than that. Again, he's got that. He's learning it. I was so excited to watch him play because every time he seems to bat against Essex, he scores runs. He's an attacking batsman at 5, looks to score. He's just finding that little transition where when he goes back to county cricket, he knows he can do it. He knows he's good enough. In his mind, he's just battling that demons. And until you get that little bit of sustained success, it's always going to just be in the back of his mind.
You've got the shoot off, Alistair. Thank you for joining us. Good to have you back with us again. Of course, Jeremy Coney's slipped seamlessly into the seat through this Perspex sheet, of course, but on the other side of that was an interesting day. I mean, I think probably you'd probably take New Zealand's position ahead of England's, wouldn't you? Winning a toss and batting first.
Very
I know you got
even.
runs on the board, but
I think pretty even,
Yeah.
Jonathan. I think firstly, England not losing a wicket in that first session, yes, well done. 67 means you're always still a little bit vulnerable. New Zealand taking the second session 4 for 80. Much more consistent bowling, Henry, Bolt and so on. They weren't quite so good in the first session. Third session, I think about the same, three for 100 odd, pretty even. So that's why it's poised. England could go on. Let's wait and see what happens tomorrow. But, overs in the legs for the bowlers.
Yes.
4 new bowlers. Patel bowling straighter, getting a couple of wickets on the first day, those are good things. Catching, accurate in the slip cordon. So those were all good things for New Zealand, and they'll feel, I think, that they're still in this day. When you looked at the lunch, they could well have been out of it.
shows what depth they've got, don't they? I mean, they've called on almost like a second full team. I mean, there's 6 changes.
Yes, they have.
And they're still, they're in there competing and bowling well and so on.
Yes, they
really
are.
have got some depth.
Yes, they are, and they're experienced players. I mean, Henry has played here before, and some of the others have played in sort of the leagues, so they got their lengths much better. I mean, when you look at it, Sibley going forward, Crawley impotent forward drive. You get Root who's going forward. You get a drive coming from Burns and then from Bracey. So they've got the length, I think, and on these slower pitches, length becomes very important.
What do you think of Lawrence?
Oh, he played much better. Once he'd got over those initial problems,
Yeah.
I thought he looked a much more organised player. Some lovely cover drives and also nicely through the leg side. That's obviously his strength with the bottom hand grip that he's got. No, he's looking great.